gotta get my classes to start with applauses. No. Yeah, I'm Peter Smith. I'm an assistant professor in the Games and Interactive Media program at the UCF, which is a undergraduate program. We have about 800 game designers in that program. So if you're interested in learning about game design and you don't have a bachelor's degree yet, it's a good place to go. I'm also affiliate faculty with Limitless Solutions, and that organization makes prosthetic arms. Am I speaking to the microphone enough, or I have to hold it up more? Is that better? Yeah, I'm Peter, by the way. This is what I was saying up here prior to putting the microphone in my face this far. Okay. Over 1 billion people globally battle some form of disability. 30 million require some form of prosthetics. This might be a leg or an arm. 32,000 children under the age of 16 are born with some form of limb reduction. And these are all very sad statistics that we're trying to put an end to at Limitless. We have the plan to try and make it so that every kid who has a limb reduction has a limb. And one of the things stopping that is that insurance companies aren't willing to pay the cost of a limb. That can cost somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 to have a actuated limb. So kids tend to get like a hook or a thing that just looks like a hand but doesn't move. Insurance companies will usually cover one arm per lifetime, and a kid would need a new arm roughly the same rate that they need new shoes. So what we do is we 3D print them, and we make them in like cool designs that kids would want to have. We also have enlisted a lot of help in getting these arms made.
Hey, Alex, how are you? Pleasure to meet you. I'm another bionics expert on hand, so I thought I'd drop by. Yes, a pleasure. Nice logo guy, by the way. How are your travels?
Very good.
Well, I thought I'd bring one of my gauntlets and match it up with yours and see if everything's copacetic when I have a look. Ready?
Yep.
Great.
Each one looks the same.
Actually, I think yours might be better than mine. What do you say we both try and on do a progress report?
Okay.
You know what that is?
Right there. Right.
Great. God, it is even cooler than I thought. I'm having a technical glitch. As you can see, my light isn't working half the time. I design one of these, it winds up breaking on me. But what I do is I keep working on it, kind of like you're working on a tower.
He keeps working and working until he gets it right.
Yeah, I think yours is still a little bit more right than mine because at least,
The light's working.
your light works. Look at that, then. Just a marriage of robotic technologies. Bang, nailed it. Love it. Hey, good job, Alan. Thanks, okay. Appreciate it. Albert has made it so affordable. I'm probably going to start farming out a lot of my tech work to Albert, too. I feel like he can cut the price point down on one of my suits, which right now is, I guess, about, I don't know, $1.5 billion.
So the cost for our arms are somewhere around $200 to $500 for the original design, which is all 3D printed in-house. In our offices on campus, this is, if you're ever on campus, is near the CFE Arena, which is where we play basketball, and it's next to the Barnes & Noble and the Amazon store. So you can pick up your packages, get a book, and please feel free to come on in. We'll always have someone there who will give you a tour. We 3D print everything. We design it to look like cool stuff that the kids would actually want to have. And so we don't want them to go out there with just a boring arm. In fact, the first arm we made was somewhat boring. It was like a white box. And when the kid returned with the arm, it was just painted. Had all these different designs on it. We were like, what happened to the arm? And he was just like, I'm a kid. I wanted it to look cool. And then we were able to have that partnership with Robert Downey Jr. He was very nice to offer his time. He actually had the family out on set after filming that. And but the star of that show really is Alex. The thing that we try to do is always bring in kind of the art at the same time as we have the engineering there. So we make sure the arms work. Our arms are actuated. When you flex, the original arm anyway, when you flex it would open, and when you flex again it would close. And we work really closely with the engineers to make sure they work correctly, but also look very cool. So this is a transformer-related arm. And you can see when he flexes, the arm closes. He's able to pick stuff up. If he flexes again, it would just open. Works similarly to your garage door opener, right? You push a button, it opens. Push a button again, it closes. But I work at Limitless as a game designer, right? So where I'm trying to tie in the Robocop movie a little bit, right? This is actually from Robocop 2, so I guess that's a spoiler that he might make it through Robocop 1. Yeah. So that was the only video game-related scene I could find in the Robocop movies. But I love to think that in the future we'll have arcades back again, right? And that all the kids will be there. And yeah, I don't know if you could hear it, but he said, "Isn't this a school day?" And the thing is, games are becoming a lot more related to what we're doing at school, and we're using the games at Limitless to actually teach the kids how to use the arms. So we like to use the term that we're hiding the vegetables by building these training games, right? So the kids, when they first get the arm, even with the original arm design, they're using muscles that they may never have used before. When they give a prosthetic arm to someone in the military who's like gotten a amputation of some kind, they usually tell them to train by imagining they're opening and closing their hand, right? And then that would be the controls for the prosthetic. Most of these kids have ambionic band syndrome, so they're born without some portion of their limb already. They don't really know how to activate those muscles. And the game system gives them an opportunity to practice and strengthen the muscle before they get the arm. It uses a EMG sensor. EMG is electromyograph, which is the exact same thing that the arm uses. We take the output from what would be in the arms controller and we input it into our video games. This is the actual controller that Juliana has here. And when she flexes, something happens in the video game. She's playing the game Smash Bro, is what we were calling it, and then we were like, someone will sue us maybe. So we changed the name to Bash and Debris. We actually added a female character to it also. Debris is Bash's girlfriend in the game, right? A single-handed controller. We can have directional foot controls, so we can control how the character moves either with a one-handed controller with their limb, or they can use a dance pad to move, right? So if they don't have either limb, you can actually walk on the dance pad for motion and flex to use the flex controller. Right? What we're wanting to have happen is for them to be able to flex inputs into this game that would actuate activities in the game. So while we were working on this, we figured out that people have different abilities to flex. So when I have this sensor on, I produce some sort of signal. When I'm at rest, it's about 30. When I flex, it's about 125, something like that. I made a game that worked for me. I brought it to the kids to play it, and that first day, they couldn't play it because when they were flexed, they were still under that number. So we built in a calibration system that uses the fun graphics from the game still, but you can actually see how much a person's flexing by how much the lights are lit up on the building. When they flex, the character screams, and you can change how sensitive it is left and right here. And so while you're flexing, you're able to see your actual like muscle actuation on screen. When we first gave the games to the kids, we started out with a game called, I'm going to switch back real fast to this. You can see the graphic here of like a nose on screen. We were like, what would kids, like 8-year-olds, want as a game? They're having like their first gaming experience, and they're going to use this like flexing power to use it. What would be the coolest game we could make for them? We were like, I know, we'll make a nose picking game, right? And we were like, yeah, everyone will want to play that. And we made this game, and we thought, yeah, everyone's going to play. It's going to be awesome. And they hated this game. They were just like, why would we want to do that? And another game that we had, we actually made 4 or 5 that day that we brought to them that day, and the other one was Smash Bros, right? So the Smash game actually lets them like smash buildings and be really empowered and be strong and get to destroy stuff. And like one of the kids was playing the game, and Nitro, the mascot from UCF, came by and was like hit him with a sword. And the kid was just like, get away from me, I'm playing a video game. At the same time, he was learning how his arm worked and strengthening his muscles, right? And one of the kids asked him, like, why are we killing these people in the game, though? We're like smashing little people. And so one of the other kids was like, no, they're not people, they're aliens, they're the Galactorks. And we were like, yeah, that's it, they're the Galactorks. And they started explaining all the other things that are happening in the game. They're like, yeah, he breaks out of his cell and jumps out of an airplane and punches the aliens on the way down. And then when he gets in the city, he starts destroying them. And then he goes in the ocean and fights sharks with lasers on their heads. And then he climbs up a mountain and fights these like mountain goats. And then he goes into space and he fights the Galactorks on their own planet, right? And we were like, that's exactly right. And we built all that stuff for the kids, right? We just were like, you want that? We'll build it. And here, this is where you can select if you want to be the male or female character. And it's a little bit of what that game looks like when you're playing it. The blue bar is how much you're flexing. So you can see when that blue bar goes up, like a punch happens in the game. So, and this picture has a image of the scene where you're jumping out of the airplane and like punching the aliens on the way down. But this was really great for the arm where it had the one actuation. So you flex and you do one activity, right? We have a new arm in the works that John, one of the founders of Limitless, is demonstrating here in this video that can actuate the fingers in different ways, right? So in this video, he does open and close. He does a point, and then he does the OK sign, right? And in this one, we also realized that while kids really love the arms, like the Iron Man arm or the Transformer arm or Spider-Man-esque arm, we'll say all of those things not like perfectly trademarked. So we moved on to designing our own designs and the idea that you wouldn't have to be one of those things all the time, right? So if you want to be Iron Man one day, you can be Iron Man. If you want to be like a shadow warrior, you can be that. If you want to be more regal, there's kind of a regal class of arms now. And they all act on the like what we're calling sleeves, so you can change the outer part of the arm out on top of that. So we have fully articulated arms, and we have the ability to change the sleeves. So this is the same arm in different classes. The thing is, to train kids to use this arm is a little bit more complex. We didn't want to increase the input, so we're still using a single EMG input, but we need to train the kids to flex patterns, right? We need to be able to tell them flex at 30% or flex at 100%. And we're able to take the input in by using like a very good calibration system as an analog signal. So you can imagine it's like one of the thumbsticks now instead of one of the buttons on your Xbox controller, right? And we built the games. We're actually allowing the kids to customize their characters, name their characters, change the clothes, and we have different environments for them to play in. This is a game called Magical Savior of Friends, where you are a like gnome-like character who's helping to save these frogs, which are your friends, from a bunch of snakes that are trying to. Our designer explained it, which a student was explaining it, that the snakes were raising the rent on the frogs. I think that she was having a hard time with her landlord at the time, but. The thing is, like, there's some sort of conflict between the snakes and the frogs, and you're trying to help resolve it. The one thing we do is when you're attacking the snakes, they get knocked out, and they get, like, little stars over their head. They kind of have smiles all the time, even when you're, like, hitting them with things. And this is all very kid-friendly. The other thing that's happening is you can see how much you're flexing on the flex sensor there, and you can see what the character is doing. So if you flex... like a full flex, you get that long one. A small flex gives you this circle that goes around. A medium flex gives you that shotgun blast. The shotgun blast is like a medium flex, and the long one, again, is the full flex. So this gives us 3 inputs on the one sensor. So we get like a 33%, a 66%, and 100% flex. And what we want to be able to do is to say, remember in the game where you flexed and like the circle happened? That's how you point when you get the arm. And it's really important to us that the kids get the arms and that they're able to be successful quickly, right? So we're using the games to help improve that success rate. That will load into an app that will have some the ability to set what gestures you should have, right? Your parent will be able to set what gestures you have available to you. And over time, you'll unlock more gestures and also the ability to move individual fingers. Now, I mentioned this to Albert, who is the founder of Limitless, and I said, you know, there's this scene in Robocop where he has like a spike thing that comes out of his hand that makes a particular gesture, and he was like, yeah, that doesn't seem like on point with our message for Limitless, but. Which I agreed with him on, but I said, you know, I could show you worse things. Does that mean? I don't know. I thought that would be funnier than you did, I guess. But yeah, this is the Robocop in 2014. That's not the one playing today, right? Yeah, good. It's the original. You're welcome. Yeah. I was going to be like, oh, sorry, and just kind of like walk out. Yeah. So games-wise, we're working on an Endless Runner, which will actually be mobile and use Bluetooth controller, and we'll still have that like variable flex in it. And we're working on a clinical trial that is with Oregon Health and Science University, and here there'll be 10 kids there, 10 kids here. The goal is to get the prosthetic arm approved by the FDA. At the price point that it's at, we believe insurance companies would be willing to pay for that arm, and that kids would have the arm everywhere, which is, in our minds, a way to solve the problem of people can't get the arms right now because they're so expensive. I will mention, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, no family has paid us for any arms. Everything's been on donations, and we don't believe any kid should have to pay to have an arm. Okay. This is the question I get asked the most is, what about legs? Do you make legs at Limitless? Yeah. Don't tell Albert I put that in either, I guess. Yeah, so we don't make legs at Limitless. There's a couple reasons why. One is insurance companies consider you having 2 legs a necessity, so they're willing to pay for legs. They don't consider you having 2 arms a necessity, so they're not willing to pay for arms, which is absurd. But yeah, I'm using the word absurd for sure. But is a reality of our current climate. The other thing is the 3D printed material probably doesn't hold up to the amount of weight that you would put on it when running. And also others do it. This isn't a prosthetic, but it is like the Boston Dynamics self-walking robot. I think that the leg technology is like way out there ahead of where things are for arms. One thing that I don't want to say that, one thing we do still is Project XAVIER. Project XAVIER is, we use the same technology in the arms, which is the EMG controller, but we apply it to a wheelchair. And this is one of our students, Juan, controlling the wheelchair. What he's doing is flexing his temporal muscles. So if you put your fingers on your head and you kind of like bite down, you'll feel a muscle move there. That's the muscles we're looking for. We put one on either side of your head. If you bite down on both sides, you move forward. If you bite down again and hold it, you stop and then go in reverse. And then you can bite sort of like left and right. And you can turn left and right while moving. With this technology, you're able to drink liquids and also have conversations while driving. And the main target audience for this is people with ALS, because the temporalis muscles are usually the last ones that they lose control of. So our idea is to keep them mobile as long as possible. This is how those sensors get placed on. I actually think I sort of explained this already, right? That you kind of bite left and right to move left and right, and that you bite down and you hold to like stop and move back and forth. Of course, we're making video games for this too, to help train how to use the chair. Our normal method is to build a simulation of how that hardware works and then get into the game. So we started with this and we were like, it's not that fun, right? We were like, moving forward is you go at one speed, you can't really race because you don't have control of like how fast you're going and to make turns. And we started thinking about how that would work on the game. And we went back to the engineers and said, what if we made the game work like this? And they were like, you know what, we should make the hardware work like that too. And we have like a very cool integration between the engineers and the computer scientists and the game designers at Linalis that are being able to like improve the experience through designing these simulations. This is more like what the racing game is going to look like when we're done with it. And we're really excited about kind of like bringing the gaming experience beyond just the training for the arms. It's a lot of the people who are playing our games have never played a video game before, or they've played video games, but they're not able to play like the same way that you and I are able to play, because they don't have the access to all the buttons that are required for the game. Microsoft's recently released the adaptive controller, which is in the top picture up there. This actually has a 19 3.5 millimeter jacks on the top that remaps every button on the Xbox. And so we can remap those things to whatever we want, including our Flex controller. And I think that's gonna be like amazing for people with any kind of disability who are moving forward with playing video games. Of course, what we're doing, the main thing that we're doing, and I wanted to bring this back to this, is helping these kids be like the best kids they can be. And they're awesome already, every single one of them. But we get these stories where like they'd be afraid to go to the grocery store because they didn't want someone to stare at them, or they didn't want to feel like different or out of place. And when they got the prosthetic arm, they now kind of go to the store and they're just like proud of themselves, and they're just like out there and being like, look at me, right? And people will stop them, and instead of saying like, what happened, they'll say, where'd you get that? That's awesome. I wish I had that, right? I wish I had an Iron Man arm. And it's been really important for building confidence in these kids. And I think that the main thing to understand is that these were already awesome kids, and that the arm's just helping them get over the like shyness, right? But we try really hard to make sure that we provide opportunities for them. Wyatt up here with the Blue Man Group, he was nonverbal until he was about 7, and the Blue Man Group worked with us to give him his arm, which he now, like, when he's at events with us, like, won't stop talking. Like, he's very verbal. And he's one of the kids who's probably going to be going to college soon. Shahali, which is up here, She's actually a runway model in New York, and she wore one of our arms on the runway during Fashion Week. And she's been really generous with her time with some of the girls who are coming through the Limitless program. And we just can't get over like how happy these kids look. Zach was the one who like wouldn't look at Nitro and was playing our video game. We actually made him a stuffed animal of the game character. And this is Shahali. I guess I had mentioned that already, but this is another thing. One of the kids had a bullying experience, and he wrote a comic book about it. And we're getting ready to launch that comic. We had the students at UCF actually draw the comic for him, and it's called The Bionic Kid, where he's like feeling super powerful with his arm. And this is our team. I didn't make this picture somehow, but I guess someone had to take the picture. And this is just some of the kids who are there. And I was thinking about this a lot, and kind of like relating this back to Robocop, is that the technology is really about making the kids feel more empowered to be themselves. And I think that by the end of the movie, Robocop feels similarly. If you haven't seen this movie already, don't worry, that happens somewhere near the beginning. Yeah. All right. And thank you.